for facilities, textbooks, supplies, and salaries of teachers and staff. Where does it come from? It comes from local property tax, providing most of the funding for public schools, and this varies in accordance to the relative affluence of each neighborhood. Reduced funding can limit available electives or AP courses. Cases such as these limit students and courses in quality education because there's no easy way to gain access to these courses, so they can't take these courses, and that puts them at an unfair advantage. So the big question is, how does where you live determine the value of your education? Well, low-income areas have comparatively lower property and income taxes, hence affecting the funding of the schools. Poor school performance in low-income areas have a direct causal relationship with a low income and property taxes. Primarily, schools in affluent areas have received more funding as compared to those located in low-income areas. Therefore, depending on the property wealth of the community, its schools might boast gleaming buildings and new equipment, or they might be struggling with the burden of old equipment and unpaid bills. So this picture here shows, it was taken in 2011-2012. It shows the difference between low poverty and high poverty funding, and it's tend to have that low poverty has more funding, and there can be up to 10% difference. While that might not be a lot, it's still enough to say that it's not equal, and so more funding goes towards the low poverty schools. So why this topic matters to us? Because the people who tend to live in those high poverty neighborhoods are minorities. And since we too are minorities, we feel that it is our job to bring awareness to this issue. We don't feel that it is right that children in these districts don't have the same funding because of where they live. They didn't get to choose where they live. So why does their value of their education have to be sacrificed for decision making gets made? Therefore, it isn't right not to provide them with the same value of education low poverty school districts have. And so here are some demographic facts. Overwhelmingly, white school districts received $23 billion more than predominantly non-white school districts in state and local funding in 2016, despite serving roughly the same number of children. Non-white districts took about $54 billion in 2016 in local tax dollars, or about $4,500 per student. White districts home to higher income and less poverty collected more than $77 billion, or just over $7,000 per student. And so this is kind of a graph that shows what I was talking about previously in like high schools in Virginia, and it shows that teachers get paid more in the low poverty schools. They have more experienced teachers in the low poverty schools, and you can see that the demographic is predominantly white in the low poverty schools, so our minorities are suffering the consequences just because they live in a lower income neighborhood. So what's next? What is our job to do to fix this problem? The next step to making the value of education the same, no matter where someone lives, is by closing the funding gap. However, in order to do this, we need to pass reform laws regarding school funding. These laws need to make sure that if a school is located in a place where there is high poverty and the property tax is low, that they are given additional funding. This additional funding will help ensure that the value of education is the same at all schools. These reforms won't get passed on their own, so our job is to increase awareness and gain support on this issue. And the reason I didn't say equal funding is because the government already provides equal funding, and you see where that's getting us, because some schools have a PTA where they donate money and their parents have the means to donate money, but some schools don't that are high in poverty. Their parents don't have the means and they can't just donate money. So we need adequate funding where we supply those schools with additional funding so they can meet the requirements that the schools that are low in poverty.
Woo!
So what does adequate funding lead to? Increased funding leads to greater and more fairly distributed education resources. When states make a greater fiscal effort to fund their schools, school spending goes up, and that translates into higher staffing levels, smaller classroom sizes, more competitive wages for teachers, and better test scores. However, school funding reform also leads to improvement far beyond test scores. A study of school finance reforms in the 1970s and 80s found that increased spending led to higher school graduation rates, greater education attainment, higher earnings, and lower rates of poverty in adulthood. So I want to leave you with this final thought. We say that no child is left behind, but what is that only for a particular group of children? because these kids in these impoverished schools are being left behind because of their lack of funding. They don't have the same resources and they don't offer the same hard courses that low and poverty schools offer. So I ask, how is the statement true that no child is left behind when numerous children in impoverished neighborhoods school will go their whole lifetime without half as much as other kids that receive in the low poverty schools? Are they not starting behind because of their lack of funding? So what are you going to do to make sure that every child starts at the same starting line